Well, my first summer vacation is over. I feel refreshed, rejuvenated, slightly tanned, and so much Aston Villa news has been happening over the last 2 to 3 weeks that I thought today on the Holy Trinity Show's pre-season special, we'd go through all of it, rapid fire, bullet style, starting with the oldest news and working our way to the latest. And if we're going to go bullet style on this show, we're going to need Bullet Bourbon, the 10-year. This is fine Kentucky whiskey. I love bourbon. It's slightly sweeter and smokier than regular whiskey. So here we go. Buckle up. It's the Holy Trinity Show's pre-season special. This one got me quite excited and seemed to come out of nowhere because I've actually done a lot of work on football branding or the redesigning of some football brands. And I always felt like the change to this badge was somewhat of an oversimplification, almost a cliche by an American owner who seemed to just kind of want change for the sake of changing in harmony with the regime change at Aston Villa. Now, my philosophy on branding of any kind doesn't just have to be football clubs, but you have to tell a story, and that story has to be authentic. And in the case of Aston Villa, the lion is the one constant that has remained throughout all the years and eras. So I don't see any change coming to the lion. But I was quite intrigued by this design only because it's different from anything else that I see in the Premier League. The one complaint about Villa's round badge design, it is very similar to Chelsea's. And I think if you want to stand out, you do have to do something different. And I quite like the fact that that design I showed you incorporated the club's initials as well as the lion. Now, the one little detail I'd love to see incorporated into a concept like the one I showed you, that diamond-shaped logo design, is a reference to being based in the Midlands, which I think is an important distinction for Aston Villa, who are, let's be honest, known as the pride of the Midlands. Could you add little tiny arrows on all the corners denoting a compass? Because when you're based in the Midlands, you move in all directions, which distinguishes you again from the London clubs or the Northern clubs. I love those details because they tell true and authentic stories. Now, I think this redesign will coincide with the final details of the stadium design, creating somewhat of an overall rebranding of the club. This news, too, also got the football mad supporter in me buzzing because a football ground is such a critical component of your overall identity, in addition to, of course, being the commercial hub of the club. And we just so happen to be blessed with one of the finest football grounds in the land. I know the owners are ambitious. There's this upcoming Euro bid they want to be prepared for, and they want to bring in better players who presumably have bigger wages. So all of this was inevitable. And I like the designs that I've seen so far, even though they aren't very detailed. And although the locals will always be at the core of the business, they're going to think globally here for guys like me. I mean, if I'm going to lay out the dosh to bring my family to England, I want to be near the ground in a hotel. I want to tour Villa Park. I want to see a museum, and I want to do all my retail all within a close proximity, especially if it's a weekend in, weekend out situation. And that's not to exclude, and I know a lot of locals won't like that kind of talk, but if Aston Villa are talking global, they have to think globally in terms of how they're doing this redesign. Now, the other encouraging and exciting aspect of the redevelopment project is this open talk by the club and the municipality of improved rail access and capacity. Because if Whitton Station is outdated now, well, what's going to happen when Villa add capacity to Villa Park? And I'd be very curious to know, with their financial might, would Aston Villa, the football club, contribute to the infrastructure of that project in some kind of public-private partnership? Because they're the ones who are going to benefit the most by increasing trains and platform space, because they want people from outside the Midlands to support the club and come to games and all the other things that are going to be going on around the ground. I feel like such a bum wearing this old, outdated kit now, and look at it all that I have to replace. It's going to take me months, if not years, to replace it all because I'm poor. Now, Steven Gerrard has a very close tie with our new kit suppliers and manufacturers. Some are even saying he has a stake in the company, which might raise some eyebrows, but I don't care. What I care about is how does it look and how does it wear? And from all the reports I've seen, read, and heard, people are very happy with the quality, the cut, the stitching, how it wears. It's very elegant and very bespoke in some ways, which is what I like about the company. I also love the partnership messaging on the unveil. Better never stops. That is so Aston Villa, and I love how they are sharing that ambition publicly. But the mark of a great kit, how does it look on a Saturday night with a pair of jeans and your tidy trainers? Does it look and feel good? I think this does. I think it's class, and that's what we want to be. Of all the things that signal intent and ambition by a football club, for me, it's what you are doing with your youth. Are you developing them? Are you tying them down to contracts? And are you plucking the very best from other clubs based on your scouting network? Because the signing of Rory Wilson, to me, was a fantastic statement of intent. And this is a guy that was being coveted by a lot of other clubs, but Villa sold him on coming there. And yes, the Steven Gerrard link is an obvious one. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Rory Wilson is going to be the Scottish Erling Haaland one day, but based on his prolific goal record, something that Haaland was not replicating during the same time in his life, why could he not be an elite global level striker one day? And now he's going to Mark Harrison's finishing school, quite literally, or maybe he'll go out on loan like Finn Azaz to Plymouth Argyle, or Louis Barry to MK Dons, or Sinisalo to Burton Albion. I love all of those loan moves because this is now sink or swim time for those players, and I think the majority of them will swim. And it gives us a chance to follow those players and those clubs, which is good for everybody. I just love the idea of planting a tree today knowing that it may not bear Premier League fruit for 2 or more years. That's long-term thinking. And the signings of Feeney and Bogard and others just goes to show that Aston Villa is not an instant gratification club, and that is critical to the sustainability of this club. And I think the Euros U19 win for England was a huge endorsement of what is happening at the Aston Villa Academy, and long may that continue. Now, I don't generally get too wound up or fussed about what is essentially a preseason match fitness exercise at a League Two club, but there was a lot to unpack from this Walsall preseason fixture, which has now become somewhat of an annual event, which allows Villa fans to meet up for the first time in a season, usually under glorious sunshine and at a ground nearby. But what a shot in the arm for the League Two side, because there were 9,000 people there, half of them Villa fans, and Aston Villa donated all of the gate receipts to Walsall like they did at Barrow during the Cup last year. All we ask for as fans is for our club to do the right things. And this is a classy gesture that is building a goodwill relationship with a neighboring club who you could say is kind of in competition with you for support. And instead, they're saying the health of your club is good for the health of our club. And who knows, maybe one day there's a loan arrangement between the two, or Villa spot a player that they might like to go in for. They did the right thing here. I'm proud of that, and it's something I can fully get behind. So yes, this game was an introduction to match fitness, the first of the preseason, but it was also an opportunity to experiment with some pairings, including the critical center-back pairings between Diego Carlos and Tyrone Mings. And I love the fact that they came straight out of the traps using those two, and I think we started to see glimpses of why Diego Carlos was brought here. I believe he will now be the first option on the ball when possession changes in the defensive third, whether that's from Martinez, the fullbacks, or Mings himself. Carlos can play the ball over all distances, and he can disguise what he is doing because he is a footballer. I will be curious to know over time how he deals with a Premier League press, but I think this guy is a player, and when you have Kamara as well, who could do some of those things, that's exciting when it comes to the build-up or the transitional play from Villa. Now, the positive outcome of taking away the burden of responsibility of playing the football from Tyrone Mings is that he can now focus on doing Tyrone Mings things, which include clearances, blocks, and aerial duels, 3 categories in which he is a league leader. Imagine now for him being able to focus solely on positioning himself to do those 3 things even more effectively and allow Diego Carlos to play the outball, keep the team in possession, or even launch an attack. Where Tyrone Mings gets himself in trouble, in my humble opinion, and the opinion of others, is when he runs around and tries to do other people's jobs for him. I don't think that's going to be a problem with Carlos. And Mings will still organize the team from the back by barking instructions, which he'll need to because Carlos's English feels a little bit behind to me. But I like the fact that you have 2 very differing footballers to now complement one another, and I think Mings is going to benefit. The other pleasing thing about the Walsall game was the scoreline, considering all the different combinations and rotation that Villa put out. It didn't feel like they ever got out of first or second gear, which they kind of shouldn't in a game like that. But still, at 4-0, that's the kind of scoreline you would expect to see between a Premier League side and a League Two side in a first ever game that's kind of 4-match fitness, but with a ton of Villa's youth playing in it. And that sets a baseline expectation, but also some confidence. And speaking of confidence, how about Cameron Archer scoring again? I truly believe they're going to have to give this kid a shot at sticking around after the preseason is over, because I've said it before and I'll say it again. He reminds me of a young Jermaine Defoe. He scores goals every which way. In fact, he might be better than Defoe at heading the ball. And ooh, if he could have even a fraction of Jermaine Defoe's career, that would be a very good thing for Aston Villa. Yes, Luca Dean did have some injury issues last year, but he's also one of the first names on Steven Gerrard's team sheet week in and week out, and the manager has said he wants competition for places at every single position. But if there isn't a kid ready to step in now, Ben Crescine, for example, you need a stopgap solution, and I think this is where it does make sense to bring in a lone player. We've heard the rumors around Hickey and Gomez, but why would those players come to back up Luca Dean? Now, Augustinsson has a relationship with Diego Carlos already. They played together at Sevilla. He plays with Robin Olsen on the Swedish men's national team, and he was signed by Johan Lange at Copenhagen, and Lange has built in an option to buy clause in the contract. And we hope Ben Crescine is in a position to one day take that shirt from Luca Dean, but in the meantime, there has to be a stopgap solution, and for me, this is a no-risk, low-risk solution. And by the way, we've had some success with Swedes over the past few decades, haven't we? Well, it can't all be perfect all the time, can it? Show me an 18-year-old high-potential footballer who can manage his own career and affairs, and I'll call BS on you, because an 18-year-old is incapable of making life-altering decisions surrounding his own footballing future. He relies on representation for that. And the one thing I find very odd about this entire Carney affair is that I can't find anywhere who his actual representative is. I rely on Transfer Market for agent info, and there is none associated with Chukwuemeka, which makes me wonder, is this one of those close family friend type situations? Because from my experience, the close family friend agent type situation can be challenging. I believe the club has taken the appropriate action here. I don't think you can be held hostage by a player unless you are 100% certain of their future potential and ability to be part of your Premier League first team. Otherwise, other high-potential recruits from your academy will do the exact same thing to you down the line, demanding minutes or more money. And not only that, but you do have to, at some point, commit to those who have committed to you long-term and not block their progress. Now, we've heard rumors that they're valuing Chukwuemeka at 20 million. We've also seen that they are still trying to tie him down. We've seen the associations to Borussia Dortmund and Barca. But in my humble opinion, Carney Chukwuemeka is nowhere near those two clubs' first teams. And if we're being frank here, I don't think he's close to our Premier League first team either, especially if we want to crack on and improve from last year. Now, Chukwuemeka's performance in England's U19 Euro win actually complicates the situation because he now has some leverage. But if he is demanding minutes. And if that is the stumbling block in these negotiations, then the club is being held hostage. This player needs to play with and against men at a high level, week in and week out. He's not going to get that at Villa. He's not going to develop getting bits and pieces here and there and in League Cup games, in my opinion. And the perfect place for him, do you know where I think he'd be great? Rangers. Big club, high expectations, but a footballing standard that might actually be suited for some early success and confidence. And then, of course, there are the Gerrard links. I like this player a lot. I want him to stay, but emotionally, I am preparing for his departure. Let's be frank here. This tour is as much about introducing the Aston Villa brand to a different audience in a different part of the world as it is about meaningful competition in a preseason build-up. And the one thing that does worry me a little bit is the travel. I used to travel a lot. A 3-hour time difference could knock the stuffing out of me, and I wasn't in the air for 22 hours. These guys are traveling almost an entire day. And I do worry what's going to happen when they come back for those final few preseason games in the lead up to the Premier League kickoff. But I'm sure you've seen the photos and videos of players holding koala bears or playing Aussie rules football. They are going to make some new friends and attract some new supporters, and I'm all for it because they have the ambition to be a global club. I believe there will be at least one more signing of the high-profile variety and probably in the midfield that may coincide with the departure of a player or two. And right now, Boubacar Kamara has improved the team, but expecting him to step in and immediately catch up to speed with the Premier League and be elite in this league might be setting us up to fail a little bit. The other thing that Steven Gerrard has said numerous times, he does not want any player in this squad to feel like they are locked in their positions. And I look at our current midfield right now, and I look at Luiz and Ramsey and McGinn, and I go, where is the elite out of those three? Who's going to take the next step? Ramsey is the most likely to. But if I were to move one of those two players out, even though there's been a lot of noise around Luiz because of his contract situation, I would actually move out McGinn. Don't scream at me. But given his age and given his ceiling, I think he actually does have more value. And I think it's an area that Villa can upgrade. We've seen the very best of John McGinn. It's right here. Do we really think that he's now all of a sudden going to take this step? And I love Meatball's character. I love what he's been to the club. This is my unemotional, detached assessment of where I think the upgrade needs to occur. Now, Luiz is still at that age where if he's deployed properly and he's played using his best attributes in a position that suits, in my opinion, that's a number 8, I still think we could see Dougie do some damage and have it all come together over the next couple of years. We've heard a lot of rumored names too. Konrad Leimer at RB Leipzig was the latest. There was lots of Conor Gallagher talk and even Octavio. But what we should be asking is, what are the attributes the club is looking for? Because all three of those players I mentioned are totally different. Now, if there's one player whose name is out there because of a current contract situation that would excite me, it's Thomas Souček. I think West Ham's success over the last several seasons is down to their dynamic midfield. Souček, Bowen, and Rice. That is a very complementary and very interesting trio. And Souček's only 27, valued at around $30 million. He's a box-to-box scoring midfielder who can also defend, and he's effective in both penalty areas on set pieces. Plus, he understands the Premier League intimately. I have no idea if Villa see it the same way, if they have any interest in Souček, but for me, a two-way midfielder who's box-to-box, who could score, who could defend, who has a huge stature, and understands the Premier League tempo right now in the prime of his career at 27, that seems like a no-brainer to me, and it seems like an upgrade. And that's what we need in the midfield, a bona fide upgrade on what we have. So come Bournemouth, I'd be shocked if Aston Villa's midfield is status quo. Now, games down under. And I love this time of year. It's the best time, really. The anticipation, the build-up, the preparations, the rumors, and the clean slate, the fresh start. It kind of gives us something to hope for in a time when we haven't had a whole lot to hope for, don't you think? So until the next time, be well, be hopeful, and as always, up the mighty Villa.